And then I was really cool.
Right. Okay. Good afternoon. Today is Monday, April 27th. The time is 4 p.m. I'd like to call this OneShoreline meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Director Mueller,
Here.
Director Colson,
Here.
Director Aiken,
Here.
Director Rec will be joining us shortly. We don't have Director Trump or Chair Ruddick today, and the Chair Gaucher.
Here.
We have 4 directors present, so we have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, we're going to move to public comment. Are there any hands raised for public comment?
Members of the public, in person and online, if you have, would like to make a public comment on items not on the agenda or for items on the consent agenda, please raise your hand in person or on Zoom. And we don't have any raised yet.
Okay. Moving on to the next, the action to set the agenda and approve the consent agenda.
So move. Second.
It's been moved and probably second. We don't take public comment on the consent and agenda, right? Okay. May you take roll call?
We've already asked for a public comment. There.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Director Colson,
Yes.
Director Aiken,
Yes.
Director Mueller,
Yeah.
and Vice Chair Gaucher.
Yes.
Or
I guess since we're all in the room, I could have done it on, there were just one. All right, moving to the next item would be our regular business, and we're going to turn to Lynn. I believe there's one item on the agenda for discussion, and that is, which one?
So this one,
Which one?
0.2 at-large members.
Am I skipping things? Appoint 2 at-large members to the Coma Creek
So that was
Citizen.
part of the
That's already
consent.
done it. That was. the
Oh, I'm
consent
sorry.
calendar.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the consent calendar. Now we're moving to regular business, and we're gonna turn to Lynn. This is the master service agreement with Goodfellow Brothers of California. Well,
Yes, that's one of the 2 firms. The other firm is Urban Buena Engineering and Construction. Okay, so this is an item to approve 2 master service agreements, and we'll walk through what that is and what this is all about. And here comes Director Rec. So 2 master service agreements for the board to approve so that we can go ahead and execute those. And the first slide is about the need for this agreement. So when OneShoreline was established, we assumed 3 flood control zones: Coma Creek, San Bruno Creek, and San Francisco Creek. We've also built assets. The Bayfront Canal project built assets in Bayfront Canal and underneath the road out to the Fish and Wildlife Service ponds. And then we also have a project to remove debris from Bayside Creek. So with all those projects, we have assets or we have activities to do. The pictures on the right of the screen show some of those activities. The top one is in Belmont Creek at Highway 101. That was a OneShoreline contractor between Atmospheric Rivers back in early 2023. The picture in the middle is a OneShoreline contractor at San Bruno Creek this past October. And the picture on the bottom is a contractor for San Mateo County on our behalf in Coma Creek. So in these areas and in the other areas that are listed and maybe other areas down the road, we have the need to hire contractors to do maintenance. And for the first 6 years and 4 months, the county's Department of Public Works has done that on our behalf in many cases, not in all cases, but in most cases. And we've spent to date about $7.3 million on those activities to the county of San Mateo for their staff time and their contractors. This master service agreement with the county of San Mateo expires at the end of June, at the end of this fiscal year. And we need to continue these services somehow. And so what we put together is a kind of structure for master service agreements or MSAs to provide this service. So this is for maintenance. It's not for new construction. That's important. And it's maintenance as defined by the state of California. And examples of maintenance are removing debris, removing trash, removing vegetation, servicing our facilities that we own and operate. It's mostly within our flood zones, and that's important too, because the income to pay for these master service agreements will come from the property taxes that we collect. Those flood zones date back to the 1960s and 1970s in the Colma Creek, San Bruno Creek, and San Francisco watersheds. And this image on the right shows those watersheds. The green and the yellow are both related to San Francisco Creek. We only collect really in the green. But I like this image because it shows the extent of the creek networks in our county also. And there's a lot of them. And what that says is those three flood zones incorporate some of the creek systems, but there's a lot out there that's not, we don't collect money from, that are still flooding issues or environmental issues. And so this image, I think, is good in expressing the need well beyond the 1960s and 70s eras flood zones that need to be thought about in our county. So we put out what's called a request for service qualifications to hire firms, one or more firms, to do this kind of routine maintenance. We got two proposals from the interestingly named Goodfellow Brothers of California and Herba Buena, and we found their proposals to be responsive, and they're well qualified firms, and they can work in this area, and just we found both of them to be compelling proposals. So let's see, and we suggested that these proposals be for 3 years for efficiency's sake, partly so that we don't have to put it out in RFP every year or two, but also so that the firms get to know us and our assets and the work, and that in and of itself is efficiency. So in terms of kind of the details of this, it's kind of complicated because we're asking the board to authorize us to spend $1.8 million. Okay. Each of the master service agreements has a not to exceed amount of $1.8 million. So it's a little confusing because a person might look at that and say, well, aren't we talking about $3.6 million, not 1.8? And the answer is not really, because we want $1.8 million worth of work to get done. We have two competing firms that are competing for the same work and the same pot of money. And when we want work to be done, we're going to ask each firm to propose based on that scope of work. Okay. So we get two proposals from these two firms that we have master service agreements with. They'll be competitive against each other. And based on the criteria that's in that second bullet about considering a cost, experience, demonstrated understanding of the scope, and availability, they will compete for the contract service order. We will award the contract service order for that work, and then what the one firm that wins it will go and do that work. Because the board authorized only $1.8 million, once we reach that amount, we won't approve any more contract service orders. We won't approve any more payments of work. So the important thing on this for the board action is that it authorizes us to spend $1.8 million through these two master service agreements. We believe that the best way to do this, create a competitive environment for this work, is to offer it to both firms over a 3-year period. We feel comfortable at $1.8 million is a good amount for that period. It's a lot less than what we've spent previously. We anticipate savings of about 15% from the past 6.5 years when we've run it through the county. So we believe we'll be saving money, but this is a way to kind of keep that $1.8 million under wraps and not exceed it. So it's not a contract. It's not a contract of each of them for 1.8 to go ahead and start 1.8 worth of work. It's a framework to allow them to compete against each other for $1.8 million worth of work over a 3-year period. And if it comes before 3 years that we max out the 1.8 million, we'll come back to the board and seek new authorization for additional funds.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's actually the presentation of this item. And I wanted to walk through that a little bit because it's maybe an unconventional approach. And Brian has been really helpful in working with Jonathan and Kevin and Summer on like creating this framework for these master service agreements. So if there are any questions, our team will be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
Well, just one quick, I think I know the answer, but why did you choose not to continue with the county?
Well, I think it was a mutual thing, that we had discussions with the county over many months on kind of where we were going with this work. And county DPW, Department of Public Works, has had leadership transitions, and they didn't want to make a commitment going forward to continue doing this work. And, you know, we've been doing this for 6.5 years now, and I feel like we're staffed up to be able to hire consultant teams to do this as or more efficiently and with our own staff. And so it just felt like a right time to kind of break away from the county on this particular item. Yeah.
Sure.
Just one more. The San Francisco Creek Joint Power Authority, so they don't maintain what they build. We maintain what they build. Is that?
We maintain what we inherited. And that's different than when you say they build, I assume that they refers to the JPA.
Yes, the JPA.
And the JPA built a project, for example, between the Friendship Bridge and Highway 101, levees and flood wall system moving out into the golf course, that big project. That project is the responsibility of the JPA to maintain. I believe they work with Santa Clara Valley Water District on the maintenance of the levees and things like that. That's my understanding. So we don't have responsibility for maintaining that. Now we have land rights in that area on the East Palo Alto side. We also have land rights and assets upstream of 101 or west of 101 in East Palo Alto and Menlo Park. And so for those assets, which are flood walls or other kinds of treatments along the banks of San Francisco, those were built in the 1970s and 80s. And we do have a responsibility to maintain those. The Reach 2 project of San Francisco Creek JPA is a project to replace some of that infrastructure. And I think it's still an open question on how the long-term maintenance would be to replace infrastructure that San Mateo County built a long time ago. So we have to work through that as part of the funding agreement for the whole project, really.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for those questions. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we go to the public.
Members of the public, if you have a question about this item 4A, please raise your hand on Zoom. And I don't see any raised hand.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please vote with the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? I think none. This item does pass. All right, this is a quick meeting. We're now, nothing for the chair's report. We're moving on to the CEO's report.
Okay, so this is a heads up that the next two meetings, this meeting will be quick, I think. The next two meetings probably will not be because there's a lot to do in May and June. As you all know from the processes that you have at your jurisdiction, it's budget season. And so in the May meeting, we'll talk about the current year budget and the next year's budget. And we'll also talk about our work plan for next year. And the work plan is both for us at OneShoreline, but it's also as part of our Measure K grant from San Mateo County. We have a work plan requirement. And we're meeting with the heads of many county agencies at the end of May to go over our draft work plan. So that will be discussed at the May board meeting and then voted on at the June board meeting. Another important item is related to our we want to get a better, every year we authorize the county to collect stormwater fees. And it's been kind of a pro forma thing that's been done for many years, dating back well before OneShoreline. And we've never asked the question, what does this money go towards? Is it something that could benefit OneShoreline? Because it's really a pass-through for us. And so we want to ask those questions, have those conversations and understand it. We all have budget pressures at all agencies, and it would be irresponsible to just continue to move that money through without wondering a little bit more about the details of that. So we're going to study that, and that will be part the approval for that authorization for the county to collect those fees will be also something that we take up in the next 2 board cycles. In addition to that, we have many contracts to go through. We're going to hire a new auditor for the first time at OneShoreline, and well, I shouldn't say a new auditor. We're going to go through an RFP process again, which we did 3 years ago, and we're going to bring that to the board by the end of June, probably at the June meeting. We also will have contracts for construction management. It's 1, environmental services countywide. That's 2, community engagement and communications. The 3rd one, and then to launch the Brisbane Shoreline Resilience Plan. And then we'll accept money, not just sign contracts to give out money. And we plan to accept a grant from the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority. Thank you, Vice Chair Gaucher, for your work in support of that. And then also accept money from Caltrans through a very creative process that Summer's been working on to actually route money from Caltrans through Contra Costa County to OneShoreline to do work under Highway 380 in San Bruno. And we're looking forward to that all being worked out in the near future. So just to give a heads up, May and June will be important meetings, and hopefully we'll have good attendance, and we'll still try to keep it to 1.5 hours. That's our goal, but a lot coming up. So that was one item. Second item is just a heads up on some of the activities that our wonderful staff have been involved with. Claire went to the San Bruno Resilience Fair. That's on the left side here. And that was at Bel Air Elementary School on the 18th of April. So just recently, and had some good interactions with the folks in San Bruno, as I understand. And then Stephanie was in San Carlos for San Carlos Earth Day, which was just last week before, Sunday before yesterday, and something like that. And anyway, I had the pleasure of kind of checking it out also, and thank you to Stephanie and to Claire for engaging with our local folks in the last 2 weeks. And then finally, also happened in the last 2 weeks, there's a bill. Well, I'll back up a little bit. For the past couple of years, we've been discussing with Bay Area Council and with the Bay Planning Coalition and other agencies that build resilience projects, what it would take to reduce the time and cost involved in permitting the regulatory permits for resilience projects. And the point here is that the current process for permitting is well-intentioned, but is outdated and uncoordinated among the agencies. And those are state and federal agencies. And the timelines are misaligned, and no agency is empowered to resolve conflicts between agencies, and the agencies have chronic staffing shortages. And all those things put together make for a difficult permitting process. So Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, who's from Berkeley, chaired a Senate Select Committee or Assembly Select Committee on Permitting Reform. I had the pleasure of testifying at that 1.5 years ago, and she recently introduced a bill called Assembly Bill 2051. And she had a hearing on April 14 before Assembly Water Parks and Wildlife, which is chaired by our own Diane Papin. And so we had a hearing for that bill, and I testified along with Laura Tam, who's the CEO of the Bay Planning Coalition. A few entities spoke up at the end to indicate their support for the bill: the Nature Conservancy, LA County, Santa Clara Valley Water District, and the California State Association of Counties. And in my testimony, I highlighted the permitting process that we've been going through for 3 years now to be able to be allowed to remove debris from the creeks that caused flooding in January of 2023. And that the fact that permitting cost, what's anticipated to be about half the cost of construction, is in permitting costs. And that's a small project relative to what needs to be done. And it's kind of an indication that we need to change the way the system and how it's going. It doesn't mean weakening environmental laws. It just means we can't be working under the same system that was designed in the early 1970s. It's just not working. And so LA County, this Association of Counties, Nature Conservancy, they all recognize the need for this. And fortunately, Buffy Wicks is taking leadership, and Diane Pappin was very laudatory about her time with OneShoreline and in her remarks after the testimony. So that was great. So just want to let the board know and everybody else about what's been going on. And as we talked about earlier, we had some activity. Summer spent a lot of time at Climate Week talking about OneShoreline. I did too on the Klamath, the Bay Area Council vote. And that was a good week for us. Yeah. And I know Jonathan and Claire and Stephanie were there as well. So that concludes the CEO's report for today.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work for Climate Week. I know Menlo Park had a Earth Day event as well in collaboration with East Palo Alto, and I attended that. It was a well-attended event. So love all of that work. Thank you again for the report. We're now to board member reports and items for future agenda.
Yes.
So I just bring up that we have had a number of meetings with our hoteliers, and we have another meeting with another property owner on the Bayfront in Burlingame. We're working with staff, getting all these introductions made so that we can hopefully sort of vet out our EIR report a little bit before it goes to the broad public, and let people understand a little bit about what we're looking at on that. And just thanking staff, it's been very helpful, and I look forward to having our next few meetings. We're having a lot of meetings with our hoteliers right now. It's bouncing between sea level rise and sobering centers. Back and forth, back and forth.
I can only imagine.
So anyway, hopefully it's NTOT. So anyway, thank you guys very much. I think it's hopefully going to move ahead, and our staff will be collaborative with you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Are there any other comments from my colleagues? I see none. With that, we're at adjournment. What time is it?
4:22.
Oh, we forgot public comment.
Public comment.
Or
Oh,
CEO report and board members.
okay.
Members of the public, if you would like to comment on items 6 and 7, please raise your hand on Zoom. I don't see any raised hands.
And I just remind everyone, our May meeting is a week in advance, right?
That's right, it's May 18,
May 18.
which because of Memorial Day being on
Yeah.
the following Monday.
Okay.
So we're May 18,
Yeah,
right?
and then June 22 is the.
Perfect.
All right. Great.
Let's see from May. May not be back.
You run an efficient meeting.
4:23 and this meeting is adjourned.
Wow.
Really the best.
It took you longer to get through San Carlos.
Probably did. Got all those road closures. I'm like, what they get for paving all the roads.